Okay, it's Mel Talk here at the legendary Cart and Horses, and we're here with the fantastic Tony Moore. Happy New Year, Tony.
Happy New Year to you. Very excited to be here.
How you doing? Okay, I was chatting to Steve Golby over the weekend, who says hello, and he said to ask about performing We Are the Light at the closing ceremony in Belarus. Yeah? What the hell was going on there?
Oh, well, that's a long story. I'll try and shorten this possibly as much as I can. I had a friend who was managing an artist over there. She worked on the radio. And she sent me a message saying, would I like to come over for the press launch of the European Games 2019? So I duly went over there. And when I arrived, I saw that everything, they had a phrase for every, like there's like the catchphrase around a big event. It was bright year, bright you. I didn't understand at the time, but it came from the fact that Belarus, for some reason, the international identifier is BY, like with GB here or UK.
Yeah.
It's BY. So they turned it to bright year, but it seemed to be about light. So whilst I was there, I thought, I'm a songwriter, right? I should write a song. And I thought, it's like an Olympic thing. Mm-hmm. Together we should make each other brighter and talk about light. So I wrote this song called We Are the Light, and I just did a voice memo when I was there in the hotel for the girl. And she sent it to a friend of hers who was the Minister of Sport, and he said, would you like to sing it at the closing ceremony? And I went, absolutely. So I spent quite a few months producing the track. Then they sent over some orchestration that went with the track, and then I performed it at the closing ceremony. There was like 60,000 people in the arena, all dancing along. But it also went out live on TV to every country. Ultimately, I think there was 112 countries.
Yeah, and there was like 8,000, or there was thousands of competitors. That was for Tokyo, yeah.
Exactly.
Tokyo.
So it was like millions of people saw it, and I'd been quite ill with vertigo in the week leading up to it. So I was just trying to stay sane and stable, and I had all this gear made. I had a white guitar made. Well, I had the guitar, but they made it white, everything, the neck and everything. I had a white jacket and a white guitar strap with my name on it in case they missed my name. And when I got to the airport trying to fly, I had to go via Russia on Aeroflot. They hadn't got me a visa to transit Russia, so they wouldn't let me fly. So they had to reschedule a flight out of Barcelona to direct to Minsk, which I didn't require a visa for. But by the time I got from Heathrow to Gatwick and the plane took off, it was very delayed. So I only just got on the last plane to Minsk as they were closing the door. None of my gear made it. So all this time and effort I put into getting this, this clobber, it wasn't there. So I had to go and buy some white jeans and borrow an acoustic guitar of someone, and arrived after the sound checks and the dress rehearsal. So basically I came to the stadium, they said, you're going to be on that stage later, and then they just took me, I walked out and we just started.
Orchestra and everything.
It was mad.
That's mental. So a year ago, you were here at the Cart and Horses almost there with British Lion, and we spoke about that, and then after that you went out to do your tour, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and we kind of spoke about that, and then you had to get your passport sorted out.
I did, because Steve and British Lion very kindly invited me to take part in the World Tour, right? Mm-hmm. Which was kind of piggybacking and leapfrogging all the Iron Maiden dates around the world. So I left in August, and I left in August to Australia. So we did five cities in Australia. We did Auckland in New Zealand. We went to Japan. Yep. We did Tokyo and Osaka. Flew to California, and arrived before we left because of the time zones. I think I've been through every time zone on the planet now. And we did 2 fantastic shows in San Diego and LA. Finished at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and then I stayed on in America and did a few headline shows. Came back to the UK for a week, and then went straight back and did South America, which was an education in how fans can take things to another level. I mean, I know people talk about it, but until you've experienced just the energy. When we were in Bogota,
you're talking about like the Iron Maiden connection, or the whole event
playing.
That was going on.
The audiences were so passionate. When we got to Bogota, we started in Mexico, but when we got to Bogota, I was a little bit ill because of the altitude, right? It's over 5,000 meters above sea level, I think, something like that. But anyway, the oxygen is less.
Right.
So I was not feeling 100%, but I went to the stadium.
Well, it's a different type of oxygen to London, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it is. You know, you don't have all the good old London buses in it. And
Can we go? Let's go back to when you first heard you were playing that. Was that a daunting experience, or were you scared at first, or what? Because you got your set to get everything on stage and get off stage for the support for the UK leg, down to 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off. But you can't. I can't see how you can get that. Then directly in a couple of cases, out to Perth.
Well, that's true, because when we did the British shows, we had a trailer on the back of the bus. I had 15 cases.
Right.
So I had 5 guitars. I know it sounds excessive for a one-man show, but I had my main guitar. I had a backup guitar in case I broke a string, because the whole show for me is, there's so much guitar. Without that, I'm messed up. Then I had an acoustic guitar. I had a detuned guitar for one of the songs. And why did I have 5 guitars? I had another guitar for something else. Anyway,
You got to have a spare one. Right?
yeah. But I have 5 guitars. So I had to work out how to condense 15 cases and 5 guitars into one suitcase and one guitar in a flight case to put in the hold. Right?
Wow.
Which wasn't stressful, but it required a lot of thought how to condense it. I had a tiny little keyboard, with a little MIDI piano module on it, because for the songs that I do in the British Lion opening set, it's 55 minutes. So there's a few other songs in the show that I don't do with Steve, which require more piano-y performance, right? But the ones that I was doing in the show are a bit more, they're kind of chords in the middle section. Doesn't require a massive keyboard. So I had a tiny little keyboard. I took my projector and screen, because most of the venues wouldn't have a screen, and my stage clothes all in that. I had my travelling clothes in my backpack, which was really just a ton of Primark socks and pants and some black t-shirts, and then a laptop bag with my show laptop, which doubled as my Stay in Touch with the World laptop. So it wasn't nerve-wracking, but it was just a lot of thought to be able to condense.
There's a lot of planning, because you've got to get around the countries, you've got to get on the transport that they've got there, you've got to get across, you've got to actually make sure that you do the whole thing and don't conk out halfway around. Can you remember like that first Perth show? That was. Were you kind of nervous, jet lagged, or excited, or?
Well, I was thrilled and excited, and of course, it's interesting to start in Australia because everyone speaks English. So, although I do speak reasonably good conversational Spanish, for these shows, it was nice to start in a country where I didn't have to think about what I was saying as well. I guess the most nerve-wracking part was thinking, will it all work? Because I'd kind of done a few test runs, but I'd never quite done the whole show with just the gear that I had with me. And it was perfect. It went brilliantly. I got some amazing responses, some fantastic reviews. The press have been very kind to me, and British Lion, as they should, because British Lion are an amazing band. But whenever they review the night and then review my part of the show, they've always been very kind and actually seen what I'm doing, right? And being able to put that into words for people to read that makes some sense. For me, sometimes it's hard to describe it because I'm in it. I am it. It's hard to stand outside of me and describe it as somebody take it for the first time. So
that's a really good point, actually, because I was kind of following online some of the things that were happening as you were travelling around the world, and it weren't just like Harris is there with British Lion, it was the whole kind of evening, and you got lots of column inches as well, that was really cool.
No, I was very touched, and the interesting thing, Steve, is that I think I've been a really good support act in the truest sense of the word, in that I went out, I made a connection with the audience, and we created a great vibe, ready for British Lion.
Yep.
And I was completely different, and nobody knew what to expect, but at the end of it, everyone was in a good space, right? That's what you want from a support act, isn't it? You want someone that can add value to your show, that isn't necessarily in competition with what you do sonically, and you can get on with. And we all got on so well. I travelled as if I was part of British Lion, right? I've treated as one of the band. Shared a room with Dave Hawkins on tour, and we've become great roomies over the last few months.
Washing your socks in the sink and things.
Well, I bought enough socks that I could throw them away. I was very rock and roll, but I did take a little tube of washing liquid, clothes washing liquid, just in case I had to do some emergency sock washing. I did a little bit in Japan. Here's the interesting thing about Japan. One of the most amazing things is the toilets, right?
Okay.
So for anyone who's not experienced a Japanese toilet, it sounds kind of weird, right? But you walk in and it's like it's a machine. The lid will automatically open when the infrareds in some of the places realizes someone's walked in. The seats are heated. All the seats are heated wherever you go, right? You can go in a bar, a restaurant, a venue, heated seats, right? And then you've got a little control panel. One of the problems for the English is it's all in Japanese, right? So you don't know what all the buttons do. Now, some of the buttons will give you a surprise. Right?
Yeah.
A jet of water will appear from somebody. Go, whoa! Wasn't expecting that.
Place you weren't expecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But some of the buttons are the flush, right? And you've got to work out which is the flush. Otherwise, instead of flushing it, if you stand up and press the wrong button, you'll be washing the ceiling. So that was fun.
I mean, just before we leave, go back to Australia briefly. So you had Perth, you went to Adelaide, was the second
Yes.
show, I think. And that's over 1,300 miles between venues 3 days later. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
we had to fly everything, obviously.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't realise how maybe how big Australia is just watching neighbours,
There's 2 time zones in Australia, at least, I think. And they were long flights. Adelaide was fantastic. We had a day off. We went down to the sea. They call it the Great Bite because it looks like some giant shark is taking a bite out of Australia in that area. But the sea was kind of was pretty wild. We went out on a long pier right out into it, but it was a very, very vibey place.
I mean, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking it's got to be like maybe at least a little bit regimented. You do the Perth show, you've got to set up in time, you've got to be ready to play, you've got to get off in stage in time, you've got to get your stuff packed away, you've got to get stuff on the wherever it is so you can get to the airport, and then you rinse and repeat.
Yes.
That's
well, you have to have a system, right, in order to both make the shows run as smoothly as possible and to just everyone know where they are and what they're doing. There were a few shows where because of there were some challenges in the venues, like some of the stage boxes weren't wired up correctly, which meant the British Line took much longer to do the sound check, which meant that in some instances I was kind of finishing my sound check as they were opening the doors. It's fine, that's rock and roll. I'm lucky to even have a sound check. There are support artists that don't get a sound check. They say, just there you go, get on.
You could do it with an orchestra with no sound check,
Exactly.
No gear.
Yes, but we had a system and it was pretty good, pretty efficient. And I have to say, all the promoters around the world were fantastic. In Australia, it was Doug Dalton and his wife, who did such a great job. They were there with us all the way. They travelled to the gigs with us. They worked really hard. They really put the extra mile in.
Did you kind of think when you were maybe going from Australia to New Zealand, this is a memory-making experience?
It is. Well, here's one of the things that I discovered. There's a lot of creatures in Australia that are trying to kill you. Little spiders, snakes, even a kangaroo if you get on the wrong side of it, right? We went and visited some kangaroos and koalas at a sanctuary, which was amazing, and fed some kangaroos, the smaller females, and it was a really humbling experience to be with them because they were just so beautiful. But there's a lot of dangerous creatures in Australia, whereas in New Zealand there are none. I got there, so there's nothing here trying to kill you. Don't worry, you're fine. And we stayed at a little motel right on the beach, and it was beautiful. We could take a long walk along the beach to get into town and have some breakfast. And but New Zealand, in a weird way, felt a little more like the UK.
Okay.
But of course, both countries have a big British influence, obviously. Japan, I'd been to 3 times before, and always felt a little uncomfortable because the last time I was there was '94, and most of the signs were just in Japanese script.
Right. Okay.
So even if you know the name of something as it's pronounced, you could never guess it from a weird squiggle or something. So I always felt a little bit uncomfortable there, a little bit lost, like I was a bit of an alien, because most people don't speak English. I couldn't see a sign to get where I needed to get. I didn't quite know where I was sometimes. This time there was great English signage, which really helped. And lots of people to help you, like at the subway, there was usually a girl with a little clipboard helping you get your ticket and explaining stuff to you. And you get a lot. I found Japan to be very cheap as well.
Right.
Last time I was there, it was very expensive, but for some reason, in relation to the UK and especially America, it was quite cheap, very clean, very safe, and the venues were fantastic, right? Great stages, great PAs. I was using the house engineer wherever we went and the house lighting guy.
Wow, okay, that's cool.
And they were all fantastic for me, which was also not a worry, but it was just a thought at the back of my head that I'm relying on people who've never heard the music, I've never met before. I need them to, go their extra little bit on while to get the best out of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. And then you then went over to America, and you do what lots of bands do, But when you played the Whiskey Go-Go, I mean, that must have been.
Yes.
That's one that jumped out at me when I looked at.
And they had my name up there, British Lion, and Tony Moore on the marquee ran the Whiskey Go-Go. This is such an iconic venue. Everyone's played there, and of course, through the early '80s, all the early hair rock bands and the Guns N' Roses and everybody started at the Whiskey. This was such an iconic place to play, and it was, I loved being there.
Wow, nice. So we're into the new year now, and we're back doing the full Monty Awake tour.
Yeah. So this is the headline tour. I've already done one show. 2 shows actually. I played at the Collier Road Catholic Club in Romford. Yep. Which is not too far away from where Steve lives, and he came to see and support the show, and his friend John organised it. It was a fantastic night. I brought my own PA and lights and stuff, so it was quite an intense setup, because normally I just kind of put my bit up and go, right? So to having to do everything, but I have a few engineers I work with that know my show really well, and we have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm very safe in their hands. That was a great show. Then last weekend, I played at the Old Dairy Tap Room in Tenterden, which isn't a gig that's on the circuit, and it should be, because it's a fantastic gig.
I saw the video that you put up when you got there, and you were kind of setting up, and they got all the lights on. It's like all the little Christmassy lights and stuff. It looked an absolute fantastic place. And what a view outside! Big
stage, great PA system, and the owner, a guy called Sean. He said, I'm really looking forward to the show tonight, and we want to do more original stuff. They have a lot of covers bands and stuff that come through for events and parties, but they want to be a more original venue and encourage original music. And there isn't much competition in the area, I have to say. Right, this is a well set up gig. It's easy to get into. It's pretty easy to load in. It's a great sounding room. And at the end of the night, he very sweetly came up to me and said, "This is the best show we've ever had here."
Really? Oh, wow.
So excited,
nice,
right?
Nice.
And the best sound they'd ever had here, which is my friend Gio who's doing the sound. So he got, the owner spoke to him and told him, it's the best sound we've ever had in here. We loved it, right? So, little things like that mean a lot, right? Because it means that my show, which is a lot to ingest in one listening, there's a lot of levels to it and layers to it, and it's 17 songs that people have never heard before. So to have that kind of response really is quite wonderful.
Yeah. There was one, maybe it was the back end of last year, there was one kind of after everything with British Lion, and you kind of got back and you were talking about some of the plans for this year. There was one video that you shared where you actually look kind of really pensive, maybe a little tear in your eye, maybe thinking about your mum or something like that, because that's obviously a big part of Awake. Is that she would have been proud of you for everything last year, wouldn't she?
She absolutely would. Thank you for saying that. She and interestingly, in South America, every time she came on the screen behind me, because she's in the show, either in video or in photo, they cheered and clapped.
Really?
They understood the connection. Awake is in a weird way, it's the most open and accessible, self-indulgent show you can imagine, right? Because I'm just doing the things that I love to do. I'm playing I'm writing and performing the kind of music that I've never quite been able to do. I'm putting it together with visuals that I would never have been able to do when I was a kid. And I'm including moments in my life's journey, and I'm dedicating it to my mum, who's my biggest supporter, and she's in the show, and there's a number of songs about her and that she features in, and So every night is quite emotional for me. Physically, it's not a difficult show. There's no notes that I can't sing easily. There's no things that I can't play pretty easily, although I do make the odd mistake or two like everyone, but and then afterwards kick myself, I missed that bloody note. But it's not physically demanding, but it is emotionally demanding.
Yep.
So by the end of every gig, I am absolutely drained, right? It's like,
I can understand that.
you know, it's, and the hard thing about doing the headline tour is I'm also the road crew.
Right.
So we have to set it up and we have to break it down. And some of the venues have PA in place. Next weekend, the 17th of January, I'm playing at a place called the Hen and Chicken in Bristol, which is my hometown. And I'm very excited to go back to my hometown. And they have a PA and a stage and everything in place. So that's one thing we don't have to set up, and I can leave that in the car. But the rest of the tour is mix and match. Some of the shows I'm using all my gear. Some of the shows we're using in-house equipment.
Okay, cool. Was it, after doing the kind of the shortened version a lot last year, was it refreshing or strange to go back to the full show again?
It was confusing.
Right.
Because and to be honest, with British Lion, even though it's a condensed show, it's still a long show. I'm doing 55 minutes, right, which you don't normally
Well,
get.
for a support band, that's pretty damn good.
Yes, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But as many people are aware, Steve has been really supportive. He's kind of executive producer of the album because I ran all the music past him as I was recording it.
Yeah.
But he also loves the show. He watched every single show where he could. So where there was a place for him to sit by the side of the PA or go up on a balcony that wasn't open on the whole tour, he would come and watch the show.
Wow.
And that was really special. He's my mate, and I'm blessed that he's been able to support me. But I'm doubly blessed that he loves it so much that he wants to watch it. Right?
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and he's seen it. He saw it last year, didn't he? When he came to one of the shows last year.
Well, he came to when he saw the very first show in Camden at the Camden Club. He came up to me afterwards and he said, I was blown away. He said I had goosebumps and it was very emotional, and he said he loved it. And for me, that was just such a personal achievement, right? We've both been making music for a long time. Obviously, Maiden have conquered the world many times. So for my old mate Steve, who I knew when we were pretty much kids, teenagers, right, to then come and see my show and to understand it and be impressed and to love it so much really was a massive compliment.
No, that's really cool, yeah. And obviously you're on the wall there with him at the famous Cart and Horses and Terry as well, yeah. Good old Terry.
But that was that pub is the pub.
Oh, right. Oh yeah, no, but the photos in the Cart and Horses, yeah, cool. So, that's the tour sees you up to the end of January.
Yes. So,
what's happening after that?
Well, after January, there's a little break. And then I'm doing some selected shows in March, probably 3 or 4, because I couldn't fit them in January. There's a place near Milton Keynes called Area 88, which is very cool, and they've got a video wall there, which for me is fantastic. So I think that's March the 29th. March the 28th, I'm doing a place called Temple Cloud outside Bristol, which was going to be this weekend, but we moved it because it was a bit too close to the other Bristol gig, and we wanted a little bit of a longer run at it. And maybe next August, when it's warmer, because it was pretty cold in Kent at the old Dairy Tap Room, I'm going to take the show back again because they really want me to bring it back. Cool. So I've got.
Oh, that's good.
So there's other things going to happen in the summer which haven't been announced yet.
There's merch, yeah. And where's the best place to go for merch? And can you buy the CD now?
Well, if you come to the concerts, I have some limited editions of the CD that I didn't do particularly to sell. I did it more just to have a small run of CDs. But online, it's the album is on all of the digital platforms. So it's on, Spotify and Apple Music. And
Yep.
You can also go to Tony Moore Music on Bandcamp.
Yep.
Download it, pay for it, and then the money comes directly to me if you'd like to do that.
Oh, that's the best place. We'll push that.
And I also think on Amazon, if you look up for Tony Moore Awake T-shirts, I think there's some prints as on demand on Amazon.
Oh, right, cool.
So it's worth checking out. If you go to bandsintown.com and follow up, I think you can get the Amazon merch through there as well. But that's a good way to find out where I'm playing and you can kind of keep up to date with my movements.
Cool, fantastic. It's been great to catch up, Tony. I'm just so over the moon about what's kind of happened over the last sort of year and a half, couple of years. It's been great to watch. Any message for the fans?
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, before I started this journey, I had no idea how people were going to take the show. Right? It's like we were saying, it's pretty full on, and everyone has been so kind and so enthusiastic. And there are certain fan favourites, Crazy in the Sheds, which probably needs to be a single at some point this year. And you know, I'm very, very blessed for all of your support. So thank you very much, and thank you for your support as well. You know, we are a community in the rock world.
Very much.
And we need to support each other. And if we all can rise up together, we can make a positive difference for each generation coming through. I know I might be of an older physical generation, but musically I'm of a younger generation, as in, you know, people still discovering what I'm doing, right? So all of the help that I'm getting is great. I like to try and pass that forward wherever I can. So thank you.
That's really good. And we're at the Cart and the Horses. Yes. There's a few places that I've been to that don't have Guinness, yeah? But you come to the Cart and the Horses, we got Guinness. Cheers, Tony.
This is a great pub, and they put on great music all the time here, and they're fighters. They've been fighting to protect this little beautiful live music space for many years, and Castro and the team here have done a fantastic job. So here's to the Cart and Horses. Cheers.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers, Tony.
Cheers, man. Thank you.